food and less places to live. While we have reintroduced more than 40 endangered species, we cannot return them to a home that does not exist. Rescuing an animal is only half the battle. So please join San Diego Zoo Global Wildlife Conservancy in our efforts to preserve and conserve the native habitats of our endangered species and ensure that the wild places are filled with the wild calls of their inhabitants for generations to come. Join us now at endextinction.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social pages, including facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel, over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, and Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. Either of those names, most of those places, you're going to find us. If you want to make sure you're notified whenever we're going live and doing these shows, you can hit the bell, as they say, on most of those platforms to get notified, or give us a like, give us a follow, depending on where you're at, because we got a lot to talk about here today. 3 major topics that I've got top of mind anyway. We, of course, have the vaccine mandate, that being a pretty sweeping one. I mean, even some effects for me personally and the work we do here. So got to delve into that a little bit because, yeah, it's absolutely going to have some effect here in the borderland. Both sides of it, by the way, and the mixed bag from practically any perspective that you look at it that most are responding to. So we're absolutely going to get into that, as well as delving a little bit more, finally got those documents in hand, of that DHS report about the missing migrants, those not showing up. We'll delve a little bit more into that for court cases. So finally got my hands on that, as well as more border-related things, but specifically what is going on with border enforcement, the state-level efforts, and how that is becoming the latest, and even beyond, a wedge issue for sure with this upcoming primary election, but even beyond that, with some action now from a Texas congressional delegation, Democrat side of things. So whole lot to get into here today, so if you're locked in with us, you are more than welcome to do so. A lot of ways you can interact with the show during the program. Of course, we have got the social pages. Again, leave your comments over there if you want to throughout the hour. We'll open up the phone lines a little bit later, as we do. What we're seeming to work out with the new format is opening them up towards the end of the first hour here, usually in that last segment of the hour, and then carrying it through as we continue our discussion of the things that affect us here in the borderland. So if you got your comments, the Skeptic Squad is usually alive and well over on the Facebook page primarily. So Thunderdome comments usually going on there. So forewarned, forearmed if you want to wade in that location. But to also take those calls a little bit later. Also, pound 250. Don't want to neglect that at all, because that's one of the ways you can leave us a comment day or night, wherever we're at. If we're on the show, it'll be probably for the next one. That might be changing before too long. We got some more work that we're working on the back end. But otherwise, it's a good way to leave us a message here. John Browsden chiming in right now about concerns about a concrete wall at the White House. I mean, the White House, at least in my lifetime, anytime I've visited, has always been a kind of, if you're not invited, you are immediately persona non grata if you even approach it there. Had a chance to actually see some of the protests happening in front of the White House, people chaining them to the fence and such. So I guess that doesn't surprise me as much. And also pointing out a metal fence around his residence in Delaware, but won't build a border wall on the U.S. southern border. That kind of part of the state-level politics we're talking about here, because, of course, that has become an issue, as you're already hearing the ads. I don't think it's played yet this hour, but I'm sure we got it coming up a little bit later this hour, about how that is the focus going forward, primary one, frankly. A very interesting tact being taken by Governor Greg Abbott's campaign in his bid for re-election, going with that kind of a focus. So that is very interesting one there, and John Hurt's kind of agreeing with that as well. Again, if you want to join on the comments, facebook.com/Talk El Paso is the main one, but YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch as well. However you're deciding to do it, more than welcome to. So let's go right into, of course, vaccine mandates and the Supreme Court decision on it today. Again, pretty much any way you're looking at it, whatever your perspective is, mixed bag is the way that it seems to be coming down as. Most specifically, there was a comment out there by one of the parties actually involved in the case, Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich, saying that it is a mixed bag, given that, strictly speaking, it both overturned the White House's move to do through the Occupational Safety Hazard Administration, OSHA, requiring large companies to require either testing or vaccinations. But there was also the other part about having federally funded facilities, or those more specifically that receive federal funding in some way, shape, or form, healthcare facilities being Medicare or Medicaid, requiring it. So here's what he had to say in the announcement of the ruling just a little bit earlier today.
On the one hand, we were pleased that the court did strike down the OSHA mandates, but it's also disappointing that they let those CMS mandates move forward.
So that was, again, mixed bag. It was a 6-3 decision to overturn the OSHA mandates, but the CMS, as he was talking about there, I believe he said, was those specifically, again, any healthcare workers and facilities that receive federal funding, of which I want to say most of the ones that you would know to name around our area. Not saying that there might not be some smaller ones, but the major hospitals practically guarantee that any in our area are going to fall under that. So healthcare workers in those settings still going to be required to be vaccinated. So depending on your perspective, again, regardless, almost mixed bag, no matter how you go at it as well. John Hurt's asking a question. If fully vaccinated boosters are getting and spreading COVID, why blame the unvaccinated? I mean, again, personal choice there with it. I don't think with the decision to get it or not specifically, but it's more than a little bit of marketing or trying to do some back-end marketing with a whole lot of this. The fact that there's been the back and forth on the actual standards for masking is kind of a case in point for me when it comes to this. I went out, or actually, frankly, already had since the start of this, just because that's the way I am, something that I would trust and use in a emergency situation, regardless of what the masking requirement is, and it served me well during it. But there being some calls by people involved with the CDC saying that we should require better ones, and then the backtracking by officials saying, no, we're going to keep it where it is on cloth masks, kind of shows you what you need to know about when it comes to these policies and how they're coming down and how they're being considered. So that, of course, one of the biggest stories of the day. Probably some further action going to be coming on it. One of the things, of course, the White House saying, as you heard at the top of the hour there, so encouraging private companies. So that doesn't mean that it's wiped off the table necessarily as an impact for you, but check with your HR if you're a member of a large company and see what the heck they're doing. The White House pretty much touting, saying that a decent percentage of the Fortune 500 companies are already implementing them. So your mileage may vary on what this will actually mean for your life, particularly if you are ending up in any of these kind of circumstances. So that's one of the major topics today, but some of the more localized, I guess just to say, statewide anyway, are border security. What is going on with the missing migrants? Finally got that report with El Paso listed into it. We'll break all that down, as well as the other state-level efforts when it comes to border security and border enforcement, and how that is becoming the bright line issue of the moment for the upcoming election. So all that, breaking it down, coming back from this first break of the hour. Again, you're tuning in to Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM, 4 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. We got comments going in already. John Browson and John Hurt's already going fast and furious. If you want to join in, chime in. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Otherwise, back after the break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at the downtown exit, it is heavy stop-and-go traffic on the I-10 westbound all the way back to Piedras because of the 3 right lanes being closed for most of the day because of road construction. Got a disabled vehicle blocking the right shoulder at Beaumark Street at 375 Trans Mountain, Joe Battle Boulevard southbound at Montana. Multiple semis blocking the right shoulder there. Stay left. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America. Red Pilled America is a weekly storytelling podcast that promises only one thing: the truth. Each episode poses a simple question, then searches for the answer in the stories of the forgotten men and women of America. Check out Red Pilled America wherever you get your podcasts.
Open the doors to Aaron Mahnke's Cabinet of Curiosities, a podcast that offers a rare glimpse into some of the most amazing and unbelievable stories taken straight from the pages of history. What you hear may astound you and disturb you. Tune in twice a week for bite-sized storytelling experiences that take listeners on a guided tour of the unbelievable, the unsettling, and the bizarre. Listen to Aaron Mahnke's Cabinet of Curiosities on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Near historical low mortgage rates won't last long. If you're buying a new home, go with a lender you can count on for competitive rates, low fees, over 300 loan products, and thousands of loan consultants to help make sure you get the home you want. Call now for your no-obligation pre-approval. 866-888-LOAN. 866-888-LOAN. Or go to LoanDepot.com. Loan Depot, where home means everything. Rates are subject to change. Equal housing opportunity lender. NMLS number 174457. Licensed in all 50 states.
The start of a brand new year is a great time to make changes and improvements. So if you have cracked teeth, missing teeth, or loose, old, wobbly dentures, get a beautiful new smile at 1995implants.com, the El Paso dental office where implants are very affordable, as low as $1,995 per tooth, including the implant, abutment, and crown. Other places charge $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 an implant. But at 1995implants.com, you're going to save a lot of money on dental implants that are top quality and long-lasting. Plus, we offer a free consultation with the dentist, free standard x-rays, and convenient financing plans that fit your budget. Make this new year your best year ever with 1995implants.com. For more information, please see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Bunch of stuff we're focusing on here today, including, of course, that Supreme Court decision on the mask mandates, mixed bag, however you paint it, whichever side you paint it from, both overturning the one that affect most Americans and large companies, but at the same time, meaning that most healthcare workers working in any facility that receives Medicare or Medicaid, which is most of the ones I can think of, any hospitals that I can think of anyway, going to be required to move forward with the vaccination mandate. So, some talk about that going on, but as well, getting more and delving further into some of these percolating topics, a little bit more state focused, both on, well, this one kind of federally focused, but affects us here in the borderland, that missing migrants report, as I've come to call it, from the Department of Homeland Security, Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, specifically in response to repeated questioning and requests for documentation, that finally coming out early this year, and the numbers I hinted at a little bit earlier in the week finally got the hands on the report, so we'll get into that as well. But also, border security and the election at the state level, some surprising things even developing here today, including action from the Texas Democratic Congressional Delegation, kind of wading into the issue, including, of course, interaction by El Paso Congresswoman Veronica Escobar. But getting into that report that we were talking about when it comes to what the Department of Homeland Security is reporting on, the most shocking part of it has been largely been talked about is, well, there's a lot to go into here. So let's just, the major part that we talked about previously was the notices to appear and notices to report and the, well, apparent breakdown of that system. So not to tease you on that part, I'll go right into it. The numbers fully out, as has been provided by the Department of Homeland Security as of just a little bit earlier this week, as delayed from the October 19th, 2021 letter from House Congressman Ron Johnson, the ranking member of the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations on the Committee of Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. We've played a couple of sound bites from that in the past about the continued questioning about that here. So the letter from Mayorkas saying, apologizing for the delay in responding, but in point number 2 of the questions about what is going on with those that have been processed and given with notices to appear or notices to respond. What DHS has to say that between March 21st of 2021, the start of the NTR program, notice to reports, and August 31st, there were 104,171 non-citizens released with an NTR. Of those non-citizens, 49,859 checked in, and 47,705 did not check in, and it was greater than 60 days. Also, an additional 6,607 that did not check in when we're still within 60 days. So that is the numbers that we were talking about, showing that that program, again, March 21st through August 31st, and, well, that's the data available, not exactly working in any way, shape, or form, because with half of that in the wind, as it were, not great numbers there. Further information provided in the report as well. That's just the one we mainly talked about. Talking about specifically El Paso, there's been a lot of talk about what has been happening within our region, what's going on with transportation and all of it. The numbers are actually kind of interesting when it comes to broken down into three categories. Non-citizens moved by bus in the fiscal year 2021, which I believe for DHS goes about September to September, essentially, ending September and then beginning the next October. El Paso, there were 187 inbound to detention facilities, 3,635 removal transport to airports or ports of entry, and 3,300 release transit to release points. So a lot of back over the border, it does appear in our section looking at this, but fair amount of port of entries or, again, airport transit, which has been a focus of some advocacy groups in our area. One other item to look at here, another way that El Paso is being focused on within these numbers here, that NTAs will actually put out in El Paso is fairly low, only about 20. So El Paso at the very low amount of those that are in that NTA, NTR number. So not a lot of impact specifically in our area, but still overall not great when it comes to what the heck is going on with the Department of Homeland Security. And when it comes to the dealing and the whole, still hate the name of it, still haven't come up with a better one for it, catch and release system, as it were, and has existed essentially ever since the next administration, the current administration, came in and did away with the prevailing system at the time of the MPP, Migrant Protection Protocol, so-called Remain in Mexico. The other system not working well and showing pretty clearly why they then fell back on the whole Title 42 system of just simple removals and no longer processing, and why I think that there was probably a little bit of a sigh of relief, not publicly, of course, within the administration when it came to them having to, quote unquote, having to, they were technically required to, but I don't think that they were too mad, even if advocates were very mad about the return to the MPP Remain in Mexico policy. Talking more about, of course, those COVID mandates and updates. John Brazelton responding here to John Hurt saying that boycott any company that pushes vaccine mandates, but Brazelton saying just don't boycott any company I own stock in. That's the risk that you take here. I'm not going to be too terrifically surprised if there are more companies, depending on however the heck we end up moving through these next few months, particularly with the Omicron and the concern and the consumer confidence that comes along with that. It's really hard to debate and deny that people are concerned about it. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are going to be individual companies and such that end up saying, well, we might end up requiring something if only to entice people to come back, because well, that's generally how those things tend to work here. We are hopefully turning the corner on it, but well, we'll see how these next few months progress. John Browson pointing out correctly that as we are in the lead up to this next election, talking about that 9 more months, his expectations until the Republicans take over the House and Senate. The question he has is, will they have the political courage to act against Joe Biden? I mean, that's kind of baked into it in my mind. An interesting factor of that is going on right now is, of course, the recognition on the part of national Democrats that they have a popularity problem. I mean, Congress always does, but the only thing harder to find in El Paso than a COVID test at this point is someone who generally approves of the actual performance of Congress, not any particular person within it. It's a weird dichotomy. People hate Congress, people love, in general, in aggregate, not referring to anyone specifically listening here, but in general, people love their congressman when it comes to local polling anyway. So I don't expect any change necessarily with, well, I think there's actually going to be a lot of changes probably coming with this election. Point is that is something that is being recognized by national Democrats and kind of leaving to scrambling why it's always a little bit dangerous to consider any particular political ideology or political party, more specifically in our area, as one ideological block, is because you lose all the nuance and the disagreements that can come with it. Parties out of power, yeah, they do tend to end up being a little bit more monolithic because they have a unified force to go against, but as has been very, very clearly evidenced by what's going on, particularly nationally. For example, Senator Bernie Sanders calling out Dems, saying they need to change course because of that, just the approval sliding for the Biden administration, among other things, but calling for a course correction. Not surprised, probably be seeing a little bit more of that coming up here in the coming days and weeks because, yeah, there is an anticipated shellacking coming. Because with the buck stops here mentality that I think a lot of people still have, even if it has fallen apart, well, go straight to the top. And if it has, what have you done for me lately, is such a powerful mentality that is still held by many people. So if things are going well, might go well. If it's not going well, party in power usually takes it in the short. So, of course, without the presidency on the ballot coming up here for the midterms, I've been having the most wonderful time of the year playing in my head most of the day, not because I'm nostalgic for Christmas that is just past, but because the elections and all the factors coming up with them on have me not quite giddy, but very excited for how it's going forward. The next kind of inflection point I see as we see these races developing for the setting of this message will probably be the State of the Union, which we will be carrying here on on News Radio 690 KTSM. Because it's an important mission sending and what they're going to be doing with it, that, of course, happening Tuesday, March 1st. So at the same time as we actually have election day here. So that'll be more setting the course for the general election from then on. Jay Visconti saying that if only 3% voted for Biden, Brandon would not exist here. I mean, anyone votes here. But, of course, locally we got our own issues. So major point I want to make about when it comes to local political participation is that we have a lot of races. Of course, presidency not on the ballot this time around, but we have plenty of congressional races, state senate, state representatives, gubernatorial races, other statewide races, local races that are going to be on this primary ballot already coming up here in March. So whichever political party you're going to go out and vote for, Texas does have a closed primary, so you do have to declare which party you will be voting for. Just make sure you go out and vote and prove that we're not just having 3% voter turnout in our area. Also have Calvin Williams joining us over on the social pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso. So these are all the things going into it, but of course we've got a little bit more wrinkle, as it were, coming into the Texas elections. A lot more focus happening. It's been welling up a little bit this weekend, is reaching an increasingly high pitch when it comes to the focus on border security and what has or hasn't happened at the state level. That is something that, again, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is kind of hitching his wagon to when it comes to, or at least the advertising going on in our area. And it might be something now being responded to by both his opponents within his party and without. So we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of the next break, we'll delve more into that, what the statements, letters, and kerfuffle is going on with that as we're looking towards those state-level elections and the primaries approaching rapidly. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso coming after you after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Comments over on the social pages, getting into more of those after this break. So stay tuned. We're locked into Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Justin Creve, your CBS 4 News Update. An El Paso man is accused of giving performance enhancement drugs to athletes competing in the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo. 41-year-old Eric Lara was arrested. The U.S. Attorney's Office said that he gave the athletes drugs, including human growth hormones. He's also accused of conspiring to violate drug misbranding and other laws. One of Lara's clients was former UTEP track star Blessing Okabari. She was banned from Tokyo Olympics after testing positive for human growth hormones. A newly released 911 tape to CBS 4, you hear the moment when a woman called police to let them know she found a newborn baby in a dumpster. This happened on Friday in Hobbs, New Mexico, but the 911 call was released yesterday. 3 people just happened to be digging through the dumpster when they heard whimpers. The same surveillance camera caught the suspected mother throwing her baby away earlier in the day. Police say the baby was in the trash for at least 5 hours before they were found. The police have identified the mother as 18-year-old Alexis Avila. Avila was booked on attempted murder and child abuse charges and later released on the same day. With your CBS 4 News Update, I'm Justin Cree.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Got a big backup and lots of delays on the I-10 westbound from the downtown exits back to Piedras. Gateway Boulevard northbound between Fred Wilson and Dyer. Bumper-to-bumper traffic. I-10 eastbound at Trans Mountain. Stalled vehicle blocking the left lane. Multiple semis blocking the right shoulder at Joe Battle southbound of Montana. And an injury accident look out for Alameda at North Carolina. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. Well, after another very nice day again today with lots of blue sky, we're ending up with partly cloudy skies tonight and temperatures in the lower to mid 30s. Winds should be to around 10 miles an hour, so that'll add to the chill. Now, as we get into Friday and Saturday, those are the 2 main days I've been watching for changes. Unfortunately, this is becoming a dud. I'm talking about no rain, no snow, just winds and cooler temperatures.
This report is sponsored by the new Mark Moss Show podcast. Want to learn more about cryptocurrency in the new year? Check out the Mark Moss Show podcast. Each week, Mark Moss, an investor, crypto expert, and host of the popular YouTube series, shares his knowledge as a true entrepreneur. Listen to the Mark Moss podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
An unmitigated disaster at our southern border, and you will pay the full price. This is a full-blown crisis. It is a humanitarian crisis. It is a national security crisis. It is a health and safety for you and your family crisis.
Joe Biden's weak border policies have made America and Texas less safe. Take it from Brandon Judd, president of the National Border Patrol Council.
Joe Biden refuses to secure our southern border. He's crippled law enforcement and emboldened dangerous drug cartels, criminals, and human traffickers. That's why the National Border Patrol Council is proud to endorse Governor Greg Abbott for re-election. He deployed new resources to assist law enforcement, and he's cracked down on criminal activity. No other governor has done more to secure our border than Greg Abbott.
Vote on March 1st. Governor Greg Abbott, securing the future of Texas.
Political ad paid for by Texans for Greg Abbott.
Talk El Paso, airing weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, focused on local businesses, local politics, local impacts of the day's news. Brought to you in part by Thrive 915 Food Fest. Join the conversation Monday through Friday at 4, and let's talk El Paso.
Red Pilled America is a weekly storytelling podcast that promises only one thing: the truth. Each episode poses a simple question, then searches for the answer in the stories of the forgotten men and women of America. Check out Red Pilled America wherever you get your podcasts. This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk, as is to highlight a discussion about things going on with Texas elections and beyond. That ad during the break there for Texas Governor Greg Abbott. I'm very curious to see how that's going to develop this time around, probably a little bit before the primary here, and then a lot more reaching the general election. Going to be hearing that in a lot of media, I am sure. But the fact of the tact that they're taking here is very interesting to me, but that's one of the things we're talking about here today, as well as the vaccine mandate update and what is going on with missing migrants in our area. Finally getting our hands on that report. A lot to talk about here. And if you want to join in, a lot of ways you can do so. We've, of course, got these social pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, where we do have Kath Williams, Jay Visconti, John Brazelton, John Hertz, and more tuned in and chiming in. One of the better ways you can comment throughout the show here, as well as taking those phone calls a little bit later, opening that up here probably end of this segment, as we have been doing on the balance with our 4 to 6 p.m. format starting this year, and those pound 250 calls a little bit later. So to that point about the vaccine mandates, I'm not going to be surprised if there aren't companies that are going to then, well, maybe make some choices about it here. Something being pushed kind of by the White House, as there is a general mixed bag being associated with that Supreme Court decision, both overturning the actual OSHA mandate, but not on the healthcare worker mandate. So still expected to affect about 20 million people. Yeah, it's sizable enough. What the White House had to say about that, with Spin Machine very much in progress.
It is up to individual employers to determine whether their workplaces will be safe for employees and whether their businesses will be safe for consumers.
I've said it since almost the start of everything that has happened over the course of this pandemic, that I'm not going to be surprised if there are going to be certain instances and certain companies making decisions that they feel would garner confidence in their ability to be safe and what have you. Because, well, if they don't have customers, they're going to do just about what they need to or feel they need to get it. So, well, that progresses probably be a case-by-case basis, so your mileage may vary. But one of the overarching subjects here today, but as I was mentioning, with Texas Governor Greg Abbott, he is very much running on his record, saying that, hey, what we have done on border security in contravention of primarily what's going on nationally and the national policies that have changed since the start of this administration, and what we have done to try to keep going, essentially a lot of what was going on to the previous administration, but under state level, both the continued building of the wall and the Operation Lone Star. That is becoming a very sharp focus point, and so the fact that that is what Abbott's campaign, at least in our area, has been focused on is very interesting. Haven't seen a lot of impact in that in our region because, well, it hasn't been a part of it, but you got to remember just outside of it, including what was going on in the Del Rio area and points further south and east along the Rio Grande part of the Texas border in kind of South Texas, there was a massive surge of Texas Military Department's troops in terms of State Guard and National Guard troops. Yes, there is a State Guard, which is an interesting phenomena here in Texas, but that number as part of and in support of Operation Lone Star, which had primarily been based on the Department of Public Safety, DPS troopers, there was an expansion of about 1,200 to an estimated 10,000 going into just the basically fourth quarter, early end of third quarter last year, from about the summer till November, ramping up by that 8,000-9,000 extra, which there had been some apparent consternation, concerns about facilities and such that has been reported variously. But earlier this week, we did have one of Greg Abbott's opponents trying to identify this essentially as a wedge issue that we've been talking about, because that's really their goal. Any of Abbott's opponents hoping to primary him primarily from the right, which, another interesting phenomenon that you could only really expect from Texas, I do suppose. Had been talking a lot about COVID policies and the failure therein and the lack of legislative input previously, but the focus is really coming more sharply on that whole state-level border response. So Alan West highlighting what is going on with those military, the Texas Military Department troops that were deployed to parts of the border and the issues going on with the maintenance, and him basically calling a lack of effectiveness. Governor Greg Abbott did respond a little bit later this week, after that, earlier this week from this standpoint, to say that this is playing politics, that yes, there have been issues, but that pay has largely been responded. One particular issue coming into even sharper focus here today is on suicides of these. But depending on estimates, 4 and now even 6 have been noted amongst those troops that were deployed due to a variety of issues. Texas Governor Greg Abbott essentially on record saying that this is politics. Article from the Texas Tribune. Governor Greg Abbott says critics are, quote, playing politics over Texas National Guard suicides. But now there is another wrinkle happening with this, most specifically that there has now been the Texas Democratic congressional delegation wading into this as well. Release shortly before our show here today from Congresswoman Veronica Escobar's office, leading the delegation of umpteen local, both local and statewide elected officials, all in the congressional delegation, with, I believe, all, don't have the number quite in front of me, but, well, they all signed on to it here, signed primarily by, again, Veronica Escobar, but Sheila Jackson Lee, Al Green, and a lot of other recognizable, Joaquin Castro, etc. on this list, Henry Cuellar, saying that they are very concerned, sending this letter to Colonel Daniel Heap, Inspector General of the Texas Military Department, writing to express their concern regarding deplorable conditions for our National Guard troops participating in Operation Lone Star, launched on March 6, 2021, with the DPS and Texas Military Department. Concern that it is severely concerning, with recent reports showing unacceptable living conditions, low morale, and suicide. So this is going even outside of the primary politics that we are expecting here. So this move into it, and Congresswoman Escobar claiming leadership in this as well. Yeah, it's becoming, again, there's a sharp focus happening on this issue. And at least for these articles, as noted by the Texas Tribune and others, including the Army Times, I do believe, is doing some of the reporting on this in conjunction with the Texas Tribune here. So a lot of, Army Times and Texas Tribune joint reporting going on this, with a latest suicide attempted on Sunday, according to their reporting here, showing into a little bit of an issue for Governor Greg Abbott, and a lot more going forward here. And this is something that it does seem that Alan West, most recently the former head of the chairman of the Republican Party here in Texas, but of course a retired colonel from the Army, and he is very much focusing on this issue, starting to hammer it. Hasn't been, of course, to these reports just yet. Those reporting on it have not noted any response from Governor Greg Abbott's office as of just yet. But I am wondering how much further this is going to go. Haven't seen any totally recent polling lately. Some of the ones coming out from the campaigns themselves, so that there is a weakness that is being exploited here. We'll see what actual independent polling points out in the balance between Governor Greg Abbott, his opponents, and then, and pretty sharp focus as well, with what is going on for the likely general election challenge, because crowded fields abound on both sides of the ballot there, in the hopes to become the formal nominee for their parties. But the battle is, at this point, widely being handicapped, as expected to be, between Abbott and O'Rourke. So whether that comes to pass or fruition, we will just have to see here. A lot of comments going on here as well over on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, and others. Michael Armstead, in kind of a larger issue, saying that if the GOP gets back in power, they need to submit a real healthcare plan, a real plan to reduce budget and deficit, and a real infrastructure plan, all of which they didn't do when Trump was president. I will tend to agree that I like policy and what is going on with policy, and if they're actually following through with policy, because any party that comes and just, well, we're just against something and not for something, well, I think that's at least part of the problem going on this term of office so far for the current administration here. John Browson responded to that, saying, you can blame most of the inaction on Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, your major rhinos, and a lot here. A comment from Tyrone Jackson also over on the YouTube page here, talking about concerns about the mRNA vaccine, and Jay Visconti talking further about Psaki's comment today that Captain Obvious, that's called freedom if individual companies want to vax or not. So a lot of interesting positions about our major topics here today. We are coming up on the need for that next break here, and doing so, we're going to go ahead and open up those phone lines as well if you're wanting to comment on the show here. So that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Three major things we're focusing on here today. A, of course, that mandate, the Supreme Court action, and the impacts we're going to be seeing here in the borderland. Most of the hospitals you can think of, and a lot of medical facilities that take insurance, including Medicare and Medicaid, going to be a part of it. And then what is going on with some of these border issues we've been talking about and their impacts on the election here. So going to take that break now. Again, that number to call in, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Comments on the social and a whole lot more. Talk El Paso back after this break with more here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
all day. News Radio 690.
Got a stop and go pace on the westbound I-10, Westler to Thorne. Eastbound on the I-10, Red to Thorne, it's stop and go traffic. Gateway Boulevard between Fred Wilson and Dyer, you've got bumper to bumper traffic there. I-10 westbound, it's slow. Downtown, all the way back to Piedras. From the earlier 3 lanes that are closed. I-10 eastbound, Trans Mountain, disabled vehicle blocking the left lane. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America. Red Pilled America is a weekly storytelling podcast that promises only one thing: the truth. Each episode poses a simple question, then searches for the answer in the stories of the forgotten men and women of America. Check out Red Pilled America wherever you get your podcasts.
By texting 818181, you'll agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Echelon. Messaging data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at echelonfit.com/SMS.
You want to ride out? Then get on. Mr. Worldwide, and I tell you all the time, why dream when you can live it? And that's why now we have an amazing partnership with Echelon to make sure and to help everybody out there make their fitness dreams a reality. I'm here to motivate. I'm here to inspire you every day, baby. Now, Echelon makes fitness affordable for everyone. So, no more excuses. Take your stress and turn it into sweat. Reinvent yourself into the new you that you've always wanted to be. Now, take it from yours truly, Mr. 305, but it said, Mr. Worldwide, let me and Echelon bring your fitness dreams to reality. Why dream when you can live it? You already know. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. Let's ride.
And right now, for a limited time, radio listeners get up to $800 off MSRP. To get this Echelon exclusive radio discount, text HEALTHY to 818181. Text HEALTHY to 818181 to get up to $800 off MSRP. That's HEALTHY to 818181.
Open the doors to Aaron Mahnke's Cabinet of Curiosities, a podcast that offers a rare glimpse into some of the most amazing and unbelievable stories taken straight from the pages of history. What you hear may astound you and disturb you. Tune in twice a week for bite-sized storytelling experiences that take listeners on a guided tour of the unbelievable, the unsettling, and the bizarre. Listen to Aaron Mahnke's Cabinet of Curiosities on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Near historical low mortgage rates won't last long. If you're buying a new home, go with a lender you can count on for competitive rates, low fees, over 300 loan products, and thousands of loan consultants to help make sure you get the home you want. Call now for your no-obligation pre-approval. 866-888-LOAN. 866-888-LOAN. Or go to LoanDepot.com. Loan Depot, where home means everything. Rates are subject to change. Equal housing opportunity lender. NMLS number 174457. Licensed in all 50 states.
Red Pilled America is a weekly storytelling podcast that promises only one thing: the truth. Each episode poses a simple question, then searches for the answer in the stories of the forgotten men and women of America. Check out Red Pilled America wherever you get your podcasts.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A bunch of stuff we're talking about here today, including local impacts we're probably going to be seeing in both ways, positive and negative. Either way you look at it, frankly, on the vaccine mandates, that order coming out today, decision by the Supreme Court to overturn part of it, keep part of it in place for the general public of large companies and those in healthcare facilities receiving federal funding, respectively. A lot of impacts there. Also, what is going on with the elections as it regards to border security and the specific wedge issues that are getting focused on both by Governor Greg Abbott's opponents and now by Texas's Congressional Democratic delegation. One issue that came up, of course, during the break there, during our news update that I've been asked about recently is what the heck is going on, digressing from those slightly, of the situation over in Hobbs, New Mexico, of the mother that is now under house arrest for throwing a newborn in a dumpster. That update coming as of yesterday, I do believe, in getting updated today, that, that person is now under house arrest and going to be there for the near foreseeable future here. The mother accused there, Alexis Avila, as discovered earlier this week after 3 people who were digging through the dumpster happened to hear the newborn and was released earlier, which was surprising to me, as you all heard on air if you were listening, and outraging to plenty, including a protest happening in that area outside of the various facilities and agencies involved in this whole situation, but now ordered on house arrest and cannot leave unless it's for school, a job, a medical appointment, or counseling, and monitored with a GPS device. Also ordered no contact with the infant or any other person under the age of 10, and no contact with any males at the home. The judge quoted as saying, "Mark my words, these cases go on for a while. Next summer, if you decide to go somewhere outside of that house, I will be notified and a warrant will be issued for your arrest," judge said during the court appearance earlier today. So a little bit of an update on that situation here. It's really outrageous when you consider the fact that New Mexico has one of those, or actually decently a lot of it's a participant in the whole safe, it's not the right phrase for it, but safe turn-in, to use a incorrect phrase with the right idea behind it, that you can deliver with no repercussions a child, or infant in this case, to a facility where it'll be taken care of. So the whole in a dumpster thing, incensing to a lot for, a lot of very sensible reasons there. It's a blood boil kind of situation here. So if you wanted to comment on the show or be a part of it, a lot of comments going on over on the socials. Cal Williams, Jay Visconti, Tyrone Jackson, John Brazelton, Michael Armstead, and more, as well as we are taking those phone calls through the end of the hour. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. I have a call on the line right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hello?
Oh, yes, you're live with Talk El Paso.
Oh, hi, Andrew. It's Barbara.
Hi there, Barb. What's on your mind?
I wanted to comment on the release of what you were talking about the suicides,
yes,
military men, and blame on Governor Abbott.
Mm-hmm.
Shame on our Congresswoman, and shame on these people who are pointing fingers at Governor Abbott. And I'm talking from experience. I'm talking from having lost two loved ones who had been in the military, who took their lives. And I can tell you, and anybody can tell you, that these soldiers should have been at the VA, or probably were getting care at the VA, for months, if not years. Suicide does not happen in a month or two. You have a slow mental breakdown over time. It could be a year, it could be 2 years, or even 3. But to point the finger and make this political is shameful, and it's careless, and it's cold, and it's cruel. Shame our Congresswoman for signing that letter, and anybody else who authored that letter, who are accusing, if that's the case, one individual for what these servicemen did. And God bless their souls, but you cannot blame their deaths on a particular situation and make it political. Shame on all those politicians. I can't say that enough. They don't understand that what they have done brings up a lot of memories and a lot of sadness and a lot of hurt for a lot of people who have lost their loved ones in the military, or through suicide after leaving the military, or even while being in the National Guard. That's what the Veterans Administration is for. That's what those doctors are for. It's just, I can't tell you, Andrew, how shameful what our Congresswoman did and everybody else who signed that letter. This just came to me suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
I can't express. And I'm sure there's other people out there who have experienced what our family went through. You cannot put people through the heartache because you want to make a political point. Take yourself out of the center of your world and consider those who have gone through this with their loved ones. Shame on Veronica Escobar and all those who signed that letter. I don't know what else to say.
Well, thank you for the call and for the impassioned talk on that point there. It is a very serious issue. What, for his part, Texas Governor Greg Abbott quoted on saying, particularly by the Texas Tribune in this case, that if they're saying something about what's happened to the National Guard in Texas, why are they not at the very same time saying something about President Biden having lost hundreds of members of the U.S. military to suicide? Why are they silent about that? The answer, they are just playing politics. The life of a soldier is far more valuable than the words of a politician playing politics. And again, I do want to point out that earlier this week, it was former head of the Republican Party of Texas, Alan West, and of course retired U.S. Army Colonel Alan West, pointing out that this is an issue that he wants more focus on, and with more coming to light now. And a lot of this, I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this in the coming days and weeks. But in any case, thank you for the call. Do appreciate it.
Well, I hope that Colonel West is wanting more attention of it because it's happening in the military. It needs to be resolved, and not because it's a political issue. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you very much. Do appreciate it. All right, if you are wanting to call in at this point in the show, we can squeeze in another one here. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We have another one on the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Tony Westside. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Tony. What's on your mind?
Your sincerity. I felt your pain, and I totally agree with you. But I will declare to you that Miss Escobar couldn't give a hoot, and I will prove to you that Escobar and other Democrat leaders do not give a darn about your heartfelt problem or issue or pain. By the very fact that they will not respond to this, she will not go on record to change her respond, neither with Mr. Blanco, neither will anyone else in the leadership of the Democrats, because they are blinded by their party allegiance, and they couldn't care less about your pain. And I'm sorry to say that, but I want people to understand how far gone the Democrat leadership is. They couldn't care less what we're going through. Just like yesterday, I said the other day, Samaniego and Blancos don't have a clue how the tax burden is hurting us. They don't have any plan to reduce it. On the contrary, they have plans to continue to tax us until we turn into rice and beans only on the table. That's the reality, my friends. The Democrat Party is callous and unaware and indifferent to our economic situation, as you will find out. Remember, what do they care about? Lowering the carbon print of every American. Forget prosperity. We need to save the earth. Social justice, making sure that every transgender gets their day in court and their right with the 10 different gender definitions, what have you. And of course, economic equality to bring down the billionaires, punish them for their success, and give the money to the food stampers so we can create an ever-growing population of dependent people on the Democrat Party for survival, for food, and for housing. And that's how this country will go down in history as the end of the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Sure thing. Thank you for the call there. We're going to have to go ahead and take that next break for the next hour here, getting towards the top of the news here. So if you're wanting to call in, come on your own things. We'll get into more of these issues coming on to the next hour here, but the number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A lot more we'll talk about, a lot more get into. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Let's start with the I-10 westbound. Downtown is pretty slow from the downtown exits back to Piedras. Westbound on the 10, Westward to Thorn. Heavy traffic there. You got heavy traffic with delays on the eastbound I-10 from Red to Thorn. Gateway Boulevard northbound between Fred Wilson and Dyer, it's bumper to bumper. And on Loop 375 from North Loop to past Pelicano, 20 miles per hour top speed there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
What's that? Oh, you hate your job. Well, just speak up a little. Right, not speak up. Speak up. You know, if you have something to say, you have a passion you could spend hours talking about every day, if you've always fantasized about doing a podcast, you just have to speak up. That's what we call it over at Spreaker.com. Spreaker for my heart. It's the easiest way to podcast and get paid for it. So, you know, speak up. Speak for yourself. Speak your mind. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Spreaker.com.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
for everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
Traffic's bad enough without Mother Nature adding to your headache. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The Supreme Court is blocking enforcement of the COVID vaccine mandate on businesses with 100 or more employees. That's a setback for the White House. But Press Secretary Jen Psaki said large companies are still free to require vaccinations on their own, as many have already done.
President Biden will be calling on and will continue to call on businesses to immediately join those who have already stepped up.
She said the Biden administration is pleased the Supreme Court upheld vaccine mandates for healthcare workers in facilities that receive federal funding. The House committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol last year is now sending subpoenas to multiple social media sites and tech giants. The subpoenas issued Thursday are being sent to Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and Alphabet, the parent company of Google and YouTube. In a statement, committee chair Benny Thompson said the panel wants to know more about how misinformation was spread and how violent extremism played a role in the violent attack on our democracy. Officials investigating the deadly shooting on the set of Rust are still waiting to receive Alec Baldwin's cell phone. The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office issued an update on the case yesterday and said despite a search warrant being issued, the actor has not turned over the phone. The update comes just days after Baldwin posted a video on social media insisting he is cooperating with the investigation. Queen Elizabeth is stripping Prince Andrew of his military titles and royal patronage. Lisa Taylor reports.
Buckingham Palace said in a statement the Duke of York will defend his civil lawsuit for sexual assault as a private citizen. Virginia Giuffre is suing Prince Andrew in a case alleging she was forced to have sex with Jeffrey Epstein's friends, including him, when she was 17. Andrew denies the allegations.
At the closing bell, the Dow fell by 177 points to 36,114. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. New York City Mayor Eric Adams' administration is now considering a possible opt-out COVID-19 testing plan for school parents. Liz Warner explains.
Right now, parents need to furnish written permission to get their kids tested in city schools, and officials say only about a third of parents do this. During a call this week with city leaders and the mayor, Comptroller Brad Lander introduced the idea that parents could opt out of testing rather than be required to provide consent, which could increase the number of kids getting tested. Lander told the Daily News this approach could boost numbers and at the same time give parents who don't want kids participating an option.
Utah officials are now acknowledging several mistakes in an August domestic incident report involving the late New York native Gabby Petito. A month before Petito's body was found in Wyoming, Utah police responded to a domestic disturbance call about Petito and fiancé Brian Laundrie. An independent review released this week says it should have been classified as domestic violence. A water park billed as the largest of its kind in the world is on track to open on the Atlantic City Boardwalk by Memorial Day of next year. Kristen Marks reports.
A groundbreaking held Wednesday for Showboat Atlantic City's $100 million island water park. Showboat owner Bart Bladstein.
This will be Atlantic City's first year-round resort in the 168 years that Atlantic City has been here.
The 103,000 square foot park will feature a retractable glass roof, water slides, pools, a lazy river, food, shopping, and party rooms.
Kristen Marks reporting. Keith Richards will auction off his first ever non-fungible token at a charity event. The NFT is a 4-second video of the rock music legend signing a black Gibson guitar in silver marker at Germano Studios in New York City. The guitar itself is estimated to sell for as much as $8,000. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Money. That's money. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by the new Mark Moss Show podcast. Want to learn more about cryptocurrency in the new year? Check out the Mark Moss Show podcast. Each week, Mark Moss, an investor, crypto expert, and host of the popular YouTube series, shares his knowledge as a true entrepreneur. Listen to the Mark Moss podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Mass Mutual knows that your finances can be an uncomfortable conversation.
Mark, we should really talk about our money.
Yep, we really should.
Like, we never talk about our savings.
No, we never talk about that. Or our assets.
Or our debt.
Yeah, we really should talk about our debt.
We need one of those financial plans.
One of those will make a difference.
We should talk about it.
We really should.
Talk to us about financial wellness today. Feel comfortable about tomorrow. Mass Mutual. Live Mutual.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese.
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you so much for joining in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. A lot of conversation going on there. Some of the major topics we have today. Of course, the vaccine mandate is overriding a lot of stuff here, and of course, going to be seeing the impacts of that here locally with probably any hospital that you can think of being on that list of those that receives federal funds, so therefore still subject to that part of the mandate. But of course, the Supreme Court overturning the other part of it for the companies of 100 or more. But we got a lot more talk we're talking about here, including the elections, border security, the intersection of those, and that specific effort going on both by primary opponents of Governor Greg Abbott and now Texas congressional Democrats wading into requesting, as led by Congresswoman Veronica Escobar of El Paso, calling for an investigation into the suicides that have been seen or attributed to Operation Lone Star in the past half year or so. But we do have that phone line open as well. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Kelvin Williams asking actually a very important question, unrelated to anything I just said, but on its own point, that asking is today Blood Drive Day. I believe it starts tomorrow. I'll be out there tomorrow, 11 to 1 at Barnett Harley Davidson, just before Lee Trevino. So I believe it's the Loma Land exit that you'll want to hit to end up over there, regardless of which way you're coming from on I-10, because you got to hit that U-turn even if you're going the other way. And that will be going on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday, I do believe. So critical shortages having a blood out there, so thank you for bringing that up. But yes, I believe it starts tomorrow. So we do have those callers on the line as well. And again, if you want to call in during the show, phone lines are open now. And that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Alan in Central right now here with us. Alan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's actually Alf, but
Alf,
yeah,
sorry.
how you doing? Yeah, it's nice to have you guys have a second hour. Just wanted to tell you that because I get out of work at 4:45. Now
okay.
I catch the tail end. So, and I don't have to hear 11 on the ride home. Anyways, I really wanted to call yesterday in regard to what Barbara said. I caught her call right now, and I kind of feel bad about this. But Raul has a point because Barbara really doesn't say much that's based in fact. Yesterday she said about the 75% thing, about the comorbidities. That's because those COVID deaths cause those morbidities to cause a death, basically. That's why they get counted. So I know what she's saying there. Today, as far as the National Guardsmen, the problem there is that Abbott started that being political because he activated them. He's activated them for too long. National Guardsmen are not supposed to be activated for that amount of time at the state level, and he's not paying them. They're not getting paid correctly, as reports show. So that causes problems at home. Of course, in deployments, partners always leave each other or they end up cheating. That could be a cause of suicide. So it wasn't the politicalness of this was started by Abbott because he's trying to posture about border security when in fact, basically, he's just not doing anything. He's trying to divide from the fact that he's in the pocket of these power companies, as evidenced by not doing anything for the rest of the Texas in when it comes to the weatherization of the power grid. Thank goodness we live here where we're not part of the Texas power grid and we didn't freeze to death last year. But yeah, basically, that's what I got to say about that.
No. Appreciate the thoughts there. I mean, the election is very much wrapped up in a lot of what can be seen with major decisions that have been made by Governor Greg Abbott ever since there was start of last year. There was some of his own primary opponents being announced, such as we've had on air here, Don Huffines, and more. At the same time, though, I have to say that it's not exactly a secret, or it may as well be a secret for how little focus does happen onto it about suicides in the military and in veterans. It is a serious, serious problem, and I'm not saying that Abbott is wrong in when he is saying that it should be investigated more, but there's a lot of politics wrapped up into this, is the very obvious part. But
of course,
I
I
wish there was more focus on it.
As a veteran myself too, because I've seen that when I was in Iraq, we had people who kill themselves out there. Sometimes it's just a deployment for no reason, and the home home life is falling apart while they're out there. I know it's been a long time that they've been out there deployed at the border where they're not really even doing anything. They're mostly drinking and playing cards for the most part, if my deployment served me correctly. But, I mean, it just doesn't seem like it would do anything. And, yeah, so I guess that's just what I want to say on that.
All right, well, I appreciate the point in the call there. Thank you very much.
Yep, have a great one.
You too. All right, again, if you wanted to call in during the show, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Kelvin Williams commenting on that. Welcome to the military. They'll pay you what you are owed when they get to it, but if you owe them, they'll take it right away. I've heard that from more than a couple of people, service member friends that I have had. Some also saying a little bit earlier to Barbara's previous comment, James Radcliffe saying, thank you, Barbara, for bringing that up. There's also the lack of support by generals and commanders who have abused their positions at the soldiers underneath them. Shame on Millie and Austin, referring to generals there for their criminal nature. Ed Clore, or echoing a similar point that comes up often of run, Barbara, run. Kareem from East El Paso commenting over on the Twitch page saying, perhaps we need a critical mental health moment. Too many people go undiagnosed and without mental health services. My heart goes out to the previous call referring to Barbara there. Don Hertz commenting a little bit earlier that the person in the dumpster situation in Hobbs, calling for them to be put down. I'm not going to go that far with you there. Not happy with that person in any way, shape, or form. And very clearly, release was more than a little bit outrageous on the other end of it here. So a lot of comments going on over on the social pages, but also taking those calls at the end of the hour. We're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming back from the break, we will get to more of the calls on the line. So again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Got a big crash on the Trans Mountain 375 loop Trans Mountain westbound. As you enter Franklin Mountain Park, a crash has closed all lanes going westbound. You got stop-and-go traffic on the westbound I-10, Westler to Thorne. 10 westbound downtown, you'll find heavy stop-and-go traffic as well. And it's heavy with delays on Loop 375 from North Loop to past Pelicano. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Win $1,000.
No way.
Way.
No way. No way.
Oh, baby. Yes way.
No way.
It's a grand in your hand. Listen every hour from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. weekdays for your chance to win.
A grand in your hand is brought to you by Approved Autos. Drive out in your new ride in less than an hour. Choose from every make and model from their super clean, hand-picked inventory and get payments as low as $159 a month. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. If you got your license and you got a job, they smell a deal. The deals are sweeter at Approved Autos, 8498 Alameda.
This report is sponsored by the new Mark Moss Show podcast.
Looking to save money this year? Look at Allstate. You can get the protection you need at the low rate you want. With Allstate, you can lower your rates, not your expectations. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
On April 4th, 1968, a lone gunman assassinated Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Memphis, Tennessee. At least, that's the official story. The MLK Tapes podcast explores rare recordings of eyewitness testimonies and interviews with the people who were there to reveal the real story of the plot to kill Martin Luther King. Listen to the MLK Tapes on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by DuckDuckGo. Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo.
Now may be the perfect time to buy a home financed by Loan Depot. Loan Depot has over 300 loan products to help you make home ownership a reality. Interest rates are near historic lows. Rates will not stay low forever. So call 866-888-LOAN so one of our thousands of loan officers can help you find the right loan. Call 866-888-LOAN or visit loandepot.com. Loan Depot. Rates are subject to change. Equal housing opportunity lender. NMLS number 174457. Licensed in all 50 states.
Oh, it's doing great. I've been on it now for about 3 and a half years. I've lost 67 pounds, and I feel better than I did at age 40. The only thing I'm just getting older. That's the only thing it doesn't stop. Other than that, I feel good.
Listen, we're all getting older, but that doesn't mean you have to feel your age. Are you ready to turn back the clock? It's 2022, and there's never been a better time to start looking and feeling young again. Introducing Andro400.com. Andro400.com has proven solutions to melt belly fat, increase mood and memory, increase energy, and bring that spark back to your love life. Visit Andro400.com or call 888-400-0435 to see which product is right for you. Try the safe and natural way to start feeling and looking your best. And there's nothing to lose with an industry-leading 90-day money-back guarantee. Visit Andro400.com or call 888-400-0435.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the social pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, at Talk El Paso on Twitter, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, and Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. Got a lot tuning in and chiming here. Skeptic Squad is in full effect for a lot of these issues going on today. You got Leroy Chuck chiming in right now, Calvin Williams a little bit earlier, James Radcliffe, Ed Core, Kareem from the East El Paso, John Hertz, Jay Visconti, Tyrone Jackson, John Browston, Michael Armstead, just some of the most recent ones. So if you wanted to join in, comment over there. Taking that on the social page as well as those phone calls throughout the rest of the hour. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Talk about a whole lot more here, so if you wanted to call in, just stay on the line there for a minute with you, and we'll get to the call. But otherwise, do have James on the west side here with us right now. James, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Andrew.
Hey there. What's on your mind?
It's been a while, and a couple topics I was hoping to cover with you and your audience that I hope people find helpful. But I guess first, if I could give a shout out to my boys, James Radcliffe, Louis Peinado. You guys are awesome. Stay awesome. Mm-hmm. And on to the rest of the story. No, I just wanted to talk about everyone should be aware that there's a primary coming up. Mm-hmm. And even though Greg Abbott, everyone knows who he is because he's got a huge name. He's the incumbent. And of course, Alan West, he's the former state chair. But I wanted to plug somebody who I'm personally endorsing, It's been kind of thinking about it, and I wanted everyone to know that Don Huffines, I think, is the best man for governor because his voting record when he was a state senator for one term was really rock solid. He really cared about what the grassroots thought. I know this because he was amongst the ranks of grassroots at the RPT conventions, hustling, bustling with the rest of the plebes for what goes on the platform, because I think he genuinely cares and wants the same thing that grassroots Republicans want. If you compare that to Alan West, his voting record as a one-term congressman, he voted against the federal government not being able to indefinitely detain American citizens without due process. And that vote has had consequences today with all those people that have been rounded up by the national government for January 6th and many other things, and that have been held in prison for months, sometimes years, without their due process. And voting out Alan West, when he was a congressman, he voted against an amendment that would have denied the federal government to be able to do that in the 2011 NDAA bill. That's the character of Alan West that concerns me. He talks a lot about freedom, William Barrett Travis and Davy Crockett, but his voting record, he also voted to expand the authorization of the FISA courts so that they could spy on American citizens. And that's what, General Michael Flynn went to prison for several years for. Alan West enabled that. Just wanted to warn people about that. These primaries are very important. If they have a voting record, look into that, everyone. Hopefully the parties hold ethical, parties, and they don't carry water for incumbents. One last thing. I just wanted to give praise to somebody on the other side. Senator Kristen Sinema is a Democrat who I disagree with on a lot of things about, election integrity reforms. Her position on pro-life or she's pro-choice is wrong immorally. But she spoke today in the Senate against the squashing the filibuster. And it's always significant and share-worthy when somebody who's from the party in power is lobbying or pushing back against using that power, because out of respect for the Republic and wanting to heal this country. I was very inspired by this Democrat senator's speech. It's worth checking out on YouTube. It's about the filibuster and why we need to keep it. Check it out. All politicians from both sides should try to be statesmen like that. So.
I'd agree with you that, the ability to not use all power, the ends justifying the means ends up being a very problematic phrase when it comes to political implementation. So anyone stepping back from the edge that way, find myself interested in. And of course, the whole lot of talk and focus on Manchin, senator from West Virginia, about this. But there's more than a few that are saying that the current push towards the filibuster move is concerning to them, at least. And of course, a lot of Republicans talking about it. And I hope that if anyone has listened to this show for any period of time, they would know that election's coming up, because I've only pounded it almost every show we've talked about. So hopefully everyone is making their plan, not just saying they're going to go vote, make your plan to go vote. If you're really going to book that party bus, like some have mentioned out there, start booking it now, because it's coming sooner than you think.
Yes, and just please make an educated vote. It's more responsible to leave a section blank if you don't really have an idea of who's who. But if you've educated yourself, make that vote, please.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you very much for the point and the call there. Do appreciate it.
Take care.
All right. One other thing I wanted to mention here, not to downplay anything that James just said, but I also found out who was on those billboards seeing around here, in a couple of them now, including another one on Mesa, Candy K. Horn. Not too familiar with their politics just yet, but on the ballot on the Republican primary. So more focus coming into and campaigning in our area. So that's of interest to me anyway, as we continue having our focus coming up to the election here. Get to more of those calls on the line again. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Calvin, you better be joking. Otherwise, saying, what election are you talking about? If you don't know that the primary is coming up and we don't hit double digits, I am going to go out and just start harvesting souls. That's all I can say. All right, getting more calls on the line here. Again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. There's a couple calls on the line right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hey, Jerry.
Hey there, Jerry. What's on your mind?
Andrew, I'm a veteran, and I served in the U.S. Army and the National Guard. Please, Lord, don't let me get too emotional.
Fair enough.
I have lost battle buddies due to suicide. Sorry, Andrew, I'll have to call back tomorrow.
Understandable entirely. I mean, this is a very difficult subject. And if anyone is playing politics with it, so much more the despicable. So I do appreciate you at least bringing it up and highlighting that, and look forward to your call when you are available. Also do want to point out, we do have that pound 250 line. If anyone wants to leave us a message before, during, or after a show for our next one, pound 250, dial that on your cell phone, say the keyword Talk El Paso. We do have a lot of serious subjects here. We take a sometimes jocular attitude to a lot of them because that's the kind of investigation they warrant. But at a certain point, we get into the serious stuff that affects serious parts of people's lives. So certainly understandable. Welcome to leave us a message, or even just shoot me an email if you need to put it into writing. Andrew Polk at iHeartMedia.com is the way to do that. All right, we do have another call on the line here. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Raul, Andrew.
Hey there, Raul.
I say get rid of the filibuster. It's not in the Constitution. It was used to thwart voting rights in the past. It's being used to thwart the will of the majority. You know, I find the right very hypocritical, arguing that, you have to have, you want to get the minority in there and you have to have at least 60 votes. Trump won the election without the popular vote and then acted like he had a mandate to overturn everything Obama had done. So that's one reason he was so unpopular with the majority of voters, because he did not have a mandate to overturn everything Obama had done. Just the biggest hypocrites in the world.
I mean, if we're talking about popularity here, if that's the basis for what can or can't be done here, got to admit that there is a serious popularity problem being talked about, not even just by the other party, but within the Democrat Party nationally about this. So if we're saying that this is okay to do when they're unpopular, but not when the previous administration was popular, can you see a little bit of an issue there?
Again, I'm for majority rule and not the rule of minorities, which is what the Electoral College has made possible 2 times for 2 Republican presidents that went on to do horrible stuff. Stupid Bush got us into a war that even Trump said he was for it before he was against it. And then he said Trump should have been impeached for lying us into the war. And then he became clearly the most corrupt, the most inept president that we've ever seen. And as you know, today's big news is the Oath Keepers have been indicted for criminal conspiracy. He's at the top of that chain, in my opinion. Thank you very much.
Sure thing. Don't know if former President Trump was ever a member of the Oath Keepers, but all right. Anyway, popularity polls don't really affect elected officials, but if you're using that as justification for what they can and can't do, a little problematic in my mind, but this is why elections matter and going out and voting matters. So to further just highlight that, yes, we have that election coming up. The 2-parter, if you really want to think about it that way, we've got the primaries coming up in March 1st, early voting coming here. We are just shy of a month away from that. So it is coming up very quickly. So yeah, if you're really going to go ahead and do that party bus thing, book it now, make a plan, go through with the plan, just make a plan to go vote, and ideally take a friend, probably someone that agrees with you on political issues. I'm not going to begrudge you that, but regardless of what it is, make a plan, bring a buddy, make sure y'all register to vote, because we're about to be on the edge of when you can register to vote here in Texas. I believe it's a month out from the general that you have to be registered, so make sure you're in good standing. Had any address changes, any of that kind of thing, get it taken care of now, and make sure you can vote in these very important upcoming elections. A couple of them at the top of the ballots, I see a decent possibility given the crowdedness of the fields and the current movement we're going to see all the way up to probably the election day itself. that there might be runoffs. I don't know. Quality crystal ball time. Tell me what you think. We'll take more calls coming back after the break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot more to talk about, a lot more issues. We'll take on all comers when it comes to the callers. That's the way we've always done it. We'll continue to do so. So if you want to call in, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
With your CBS 4 News update, repairs to a broken wastewater line on the west side will cost El Paso Water tens of millions of dollars. That's the same broken line that forced the utility to divert raw sewage into the Rio Grande for months. It broke after powerful rainstorms back in August. A new line was finally installed earlier this month. Now, El Paso Water says they've paid $3.2 million for emergency repairs, but the utility will pay millions more. The utility has said that rising rates will help offset the repair cost. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality and the Environmental Protection Agency are assisting the utility's response to the broken line. And speaking of El Paso Water, they did approve a monthly rate increase, meaning the average customer will now be paying $6.37 more starting March 1st. More children in El Paso can now receive a COVID-19 booster shot. The city announced it would begin providing shots yesterday. The city of El Paso said it is now administering the Pfizer's COVID-19 booster shot to kids 12 to 15 at city-run vaccination clinics. With your CBS 4 News update, I'm Justin Cree.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Got a big crash on the Trans Mountain 375 loop Trans Mountain westbound. As you enter Franklin Mountain Park, a crash has closed all lanes going westbound. You got stop-and-go traffic on the westbound I-10, Westler to Thorne. 10 westbound downtown, you'll find heavy stop-and-go traffic as well. And it's heavy with delays on Loop 375 from North Loop to past Pelicano. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. Well, after another very nice day again today with lots of blue sky, we're ending up with partly cloudy skies tonight and temperatures in the lower to mid 30s. Winds should be to around 10 miles an hour, so that'll add to the chill. Now, as we get into Friday and Saturday, those are the two main days I've been watching for changes. Unfortunately, this is becoming a dud. I'm talking about no rain, no snow, just winds and cooler temperatures.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. If New Year calls for more hiring, check out Indeed, the all-in-one hiring platform that makes it easy to attract, screen, and interview candidates all in one place. Sponsor your first job post today after visiting Indeed.com/credit.
The start of a brand new year is a great time to make changes and improvements. So if you have cracked teeth, missing teeth, or loose, old, wobbly dentures, get a beautiful new smile at 1995implants.com, the El Paso dental office where implants are very affordable, as low as $1,995 per tooth, including the implant, abutment, and crown. Other places charge $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 an implant. But at 1995implants.com, you're going to save a lot of money on dental implants that are top quality and long-lasting. Plus, we offer a free consultation with the dentist, free standard x-rays, and convenient financing plans that fit your budget. Make this new year your best year ever with 1995implants.com. For more information, please see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
No family should lose someone they love to COVID because vaccines prevent more than 9 out of 10 COVID deaths. We can do this. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. This report is paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Whole lot of ways you can interact with the show. Of course, we've got the phone line. That line open right now, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Make sure to put the 915 on there because that's what's required to dial in our area these days. So, again, 915-544-5876. Calling on the show. If you call in the middle of the segment, might put you on hold briefly. Otherwise, welcome to do so. Go at the end of the hour. We also got those comments going on online. Lots stirred up right now. Skeptic Squad in full effect and fury. James Ratcliffe pointing back to saying that it was FDR and Congress in 1933 and 1917 that act were passed to make the U.S. citizens enemies of the state. I wouldn't go quite that far with it, but one of the things that was actually done, and it surprised me when I first came across it in history because the way it gets portrayed, it's like, this has to be wrong, but no, it was totally done. One of the emergency powers, the whole 100-day Congress thing that was put into place during the FDR administration was actually a prevention of withdrawal from safe deposits and basically locking down on the sale of gold as an attempt to stabilize the depression that was currently at the time. But you kind of read about that kind of thing and you go, what the heck? Because that one doesn't quite make it into the elementary school textbooks, I'll put it that way. And James Ratcliffe also pointing out that the filibuster, not the relay of any one party particularly. Dave Visconti saying if the filibuster is the issue for you, write a better bill. 170 million people voted last year and even voted out the Trump He's putting it, the argument as a wet, soggy safe space noodle. Yeah, I'm not a terrific fan of safe spaces, and I definitely don't consider this one here. Some commentary, including by Calvin Williams, about how we should handle calls and how we do it. And so we'll go with Stephen M. Purdy that didn't necessarily agree or believe in the idea of Trump derangement syndrome until, well, we've gotten a little bit more examples coming today. I hope against hope that every caller that we get will have an interesting, introspective, and relevant point here. And if not, well, guess on the record yourself here on your experience of what you've heard, but we'll take them all on as we do Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Are coming up on the Free For All show later tomorrow, but we'll talk more about that here in a minute because we do have a call on the line right now. Again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you. One of the things I wanted to bring up, these politicians are talking so much about suicides in the military. Yes, it is a tragic event, and I feel for the families of these individuals. But one of the things that these politicians don't give a rat's butt about, and it shows. But do you know that suicides in Customs and Border Protection are 28% higher than any law enforcement agency in the country? That ought to, I don't see anybody addressing that in politics, but it doesn't matter. These people are making $175,000 a year as a congressman. Joe Biden can have his $2,500 Ralph Lauren suits, a $500,000 fence around your property paid for by the taxpayers. So why should something like this be of interest to them? Another thing I wanted to say was concerning that Raul character. He might be interested in knowing from 2001 to 2009, Trump was a Democrat, and in 2008, he supported Hillary Clinton. I'm wondering if Raul was so critical of Trump back then. But I do want to thank our veterans and our people in the military right now and law enforcement for the service that you do, especially police officers and border patrolmen. It is not an easy job being out there in the sticks and your life on the line constantly, especially when people are taking pot shots at you from across the river. But anyway, Andrew, have a good evening and have a good rest of the week. Take care.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the points in the call there. I do want to point out kind of on your last point there, that this week did mark a National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. I think we mentioned it on Monday, but bears repeating as well because, if whatever your opinion of systems involved, in which there has been more than a little bit of debate in this country, of course, is important to those that are doing the work and doing it right, correct, and the way we expect it to be done should be appreciated. And I hadn't heard that exact figure when it comes to mental health and suicides within particular law enforcement agencies, CBP, as you said. I had heard that it was a serious toll being taken. So all of it is an important focus, and it kind of goes to a larger issue. We're talking about it right now within the framework, as it has been brought up, of politics and elections. Not saying that it's an important topic to bring up at any point, but the way it's being brought up now, decently transparently, because of what is coming up on the ballot. This is a larger issue in my mind when it comes to the way a lot of issues end up being brought up by elected officials as a way to garner support or garner votes or garner whatever, particular issue that they're working on at that point, but then not necessarily doing anything about it. This current call by Texas Democratic congressional delegation calling for an investigation into it, not necessarily opposed to an investigation into it, but what I would want to see and what needs to be done, frankly, is a follow-through. Because if it's just a transparent, let's get the headline out there kind of effort, so what? Wet fart sound. Can't make it hard enough. Because if it just stops there, then yeah, it's pretty transparently politics. And this happens more than a little bit of time. I've harped on this before, and it keeps getting to me. When we have these politicians that will stand up, wave the banner, rah, rah, and then let it fall to the ground, or even worse, say, you know what, this is the one I was working on, and we didn't quite get it, so you have to vote for me again to do it next time. Because issues, getting people involved, engaged, as can clearly be seen from the voter turnout in our area, it's hard, man. It's hard to get people to consistently show up, go out and vote, or even just donate any of it. So if you latch onto an issue, you find a good one or a strong one that you're polling well on, you get people giving you donations, going out and voting on, you kind of don't want to let it slip from the elected official standpoint anyway. So the real impetus in modern politics is don't let it die, whatever that takes, even if it means not actually advancing it, but talking about it constantly. So that's what I want to see, and that's when we're talking about voting records, as brought up by a previous caller. Look at what they're actually voting on, what they have done, and make sure accountability is a word that does not get talked about enough these days when it comes to what elected officials profess and what then they actually do. This is why I talk about policy, because saying, oh, this is important without and what are you going to do about it? It's a rocking chair. You may feel like you're doing something, but you're definitely not getting anywhere. All right, more calls on the line. Number to call 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Yeah, it's Ben on the east side.
Hey there, Ben. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
I've got a question for you. Have you found out what went on with that woman in the Hobbs?
Yes, we brought that up a little bit earlier in the program, but for anyone else who missed it as well, she is now under house arrest pending the move forward of her trial, actually in court a little bit earlier today, and the judge quoted as saying that, mark my words, these cases sometimes go on for a while. Next summer, if you decide to go somewhere outside the house, I will be notified and a warrant will be issued for your arrest. So probably, well, specifically not quite as far as some have even called for in the comments here, but definitely a bit more action at the very least than the release that happened since earlier this week.
Yeah, I'm still beside myself. I mean, somebody attempted murder and they're allowed to have house arrest. That doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, that's nuts. Anyway, I mean, attempted murder of a newborn.
Yeah,
it's sick. One other thing, there's three sets of things that has to do with COVID right now. One is, the prevention of early COVID, making yourself, as immune resistant as you can get, and everything, through taking vitamin D, all the things that you take to make yourself healthy, lose weight, stuff like that. The second one is actually early treatment, and that comes with, of course, ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and zinc and all the things that the FLCC talks about. And then third is long COVID, and that is a real thing that some people are actually going through really bad, hellacious type things. And if you want to learn about all this stuff, if you really want to learn about it, there's a podcast that people can listen to. It's called Daniel Horowitz, The Conservative Review. Forget about the politics. He does. He delves into it with doctors that have been actually treating COVID and have been getting great results. They came out with a thing today that said people with long COVID probably could take statins sometimes, and that will just simple statins, $5 drug that could help him. But does anybody say anything about that on the news? No. There's a lot of things that can be done, and people don't have to be, cowering in their houses and everything because they're afraid that if they get it, they can't do anything about it. You can get it, you can do something about it. It doesn't work for everybody, but at least you might have some hope that you don't have to. You just don't have to accept the fact that you're going to get sick and die.
Absolutely. I think that the early treatment you're talking about has been a very important focus. We've had it kind of off and on in the public discourse just within our community here, both with the waxing and now waning, and still to my notice, mostly out availability of things like the monoclonal antibodies. But this, again, why it's very important to have a relationship with a doctor that you trust to be able to talk about these things, because even if it's not being talked about in news and media, if you got a concern, that's one my first thing is. And yeah, long COVID is a very, very real thing. One of the more disturbing symptoms that I've had someone I know end up coming up with that had it once or twice over the past couple of years now, and a symptom they've just developed called I am not going to be pronouncing it right, but Dysgeusia, Dysgeusia, which the whole lack of smell and taste is one thing, but this is one where anything that you eat or drink ends up tasting either rotten or rancid, and that's just one of the ones that, again, someone I know has had a mild symptom of that, but the ongoing aspects of this are a concerning thing that is only just starting to be delved into. I'll agree with you on that.
Andrew, if you for your friend, having listened to the Daniel Horowitz thing that came on today, it was on Conservative Review on the podcast. They talk about long COVID, and there's a study that they can get involved in, and they are finding that with their study, they are taking care of people that have problems with smell, taste, whatever, and everything, and they know how to take care of it. And so have him take a look at that podcast. It might give him some hope and maybe a cure.
Hopefully, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
All right.
Stay safe, stay well. God bless.
You as well, absolutely, out there. I find myself taking what I consider reasonable precautions when heading out here, because I'm kind of sick of it as everyone else is, but it's also not unreasonable to take, again, reasonable precautions to then go about and do what you need to here. I'm blessed enough to be in this position where I can come and do this kind of thing. Not everyone else is in the same position of being able to sit in a radio studio by themselves and do their job that way. But again, do what's right for you and your family has been what I have said since the start of this, because it has made the most sense and applies to everything that has happened. Regardless of whatever the latest development is, doing what's right for you, being reasonably informed, again, facts, not fear, is the way I always think about this. And anytime we bring it up, even when we were doing the reports as we were in the early stages of this, was always so that you can be informed and make reasonable decisions for what your well-being is and those of your loved ones closest to you, because no one else is going to take care of you the way that I'm not going to, any talking head on it. We're not going to be there to take care of you and deal with the situations you encounter. So do what is right for you and your family. And that applies to just about anything. And that has been a very powerful bit of advice guiding myself during this whole time. All right, we're going to go ahead and take that last break before the end of the show here. So coming out of the break, we will get to a couple more calls if they come in. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Get to those pound 250 calls as well and wrap up for the day. Don't forget, we are going to be doing the free-for-all thing tomorrow, so if you can't quite squeeze it in, we got plenty of time. But stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690, KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We're looking at some stop-and-go traffic westbound on the I-10 after Wrestler up to Thorn. Loop 375 northbound is still stop-and-go at North Loop. I-10 westbound downtown finally clearing out after the lane closures have been removed. And we've got an injury accident, Copia at Persian. You could take Montana or Piedras as alternates. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America. Red Pilled America is a weekly storytelling podcast that promises only one thing, the truth. Each episode poses a simple question, then searches for the answer in the stories of the forgotten men and women of America. Check out Red Pilled America wherever you get your podcasts.
By texting 818181, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Echelon. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at echelonfit.com/SMS.
You want to ride out and get on? Mr. Worldwide, and I tell you all the time, why dream when you can live it? And that's why now we have an amazing partnership with Echelon to make sure and to help everybody out there make their fitness dreams a reality. I'm here to motivate. I'm here to inspire you every day, baby. Now, Echelon makes fitness affordable for everyone. So, no more excuses. Take your stress and turn it into sweat. Reinvent yourself into the new you that you've always wanted to be. Now, take it from yours truly, Mr. 305, that said, Mr. Worldwide, let me and Echelon bring your fitness dreams to reality. Why dream when you can live it? You already know. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. Let's ride.
And right now, for a limited time, radio listeners get up to $800 off MSRP. To get this Echelon exclusive radio discount, text HEALTHY to 818181. Text HEALTHY to 818181 to get up to $800 off MSRP. That's HEALTHY to 818181.
What's that? Oh, you hate your job. Well, just speak up a little. All right, not speak up. Speak up. You know, if you have something to say, you have a passion you could spend hours talking about every day, if you've always fantasized about doing a podcast, you just have to speak up. That's what we call it over at Spreaker.com. SPREAKER for my heart. It's the easiest way to podcast and get paid for it. So, you know, speak up. Speak for yourself. Speak your mind. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Spreaker.com.
Open the doors to Aaron Mahnke's Cabinet of Curiosities, a podcast that offers a rare glimpse into some of the most amazing and unbelievable stories taken straight from the pages of history. What you hear may astound you and disturb you. Tune in twice a week for bite-sized storytelling experiences that take listeners on a guided tour of the unbelievable, the unsettling, and the bizarre. Listen to Aaron Mahnke's Cabinet of Curiosities on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Donate blood. Save a life. And maybe win a Barnett Harley-Davidson motorcycle. The all-radio blood drive from Vital. Martin Luther King weekend at Barnett Harley-Davidson, El Paso, and Las Cruces. Free t-shirts and gift-filled goodie bags to all donors. Plus a chance to win a Barnett Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Give blood. Friday, January 14th to Monday, January 17th. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. Learn more at BarnettHarley.com or call 915-592-5804. Sponsored in part by EARS, the El Paso Association of Radio Stations, and Vitalent. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Sometimes the comments just get me going here, well, you want to check it out for yourself. The Skeptic Squad always going over on mainly the Facebook page, facebook.com/Talk El Paso. But there are lots of ways you can comment here, including Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, where Kareem is saying that I'm not going to quite consider it a curse, but just this side of it, asking me to take it as a compliment, wanting to see me running for some kind of office. But I'll take the blessings to you in the Skeptic Squad, but it's right up there with the whole may you live in interesting times kind of feeling at this point. That don't know if I want more people to run, but we'll keep it the way we're doing it right now. That's for dang sure. Anyway, if you want to comment there, plenty of ways to do so. Pound 250 is where you can leave us a message day or night as we're coming up on the end of this particular program. So if you want to leave your comment that way, literally dial pound 250 on your cell phone, say the keyword Talk El Paso, and leave your own message like this.
This is Messiah Frankie. I want to ask everybody out there in Texas, is there any capacity, any at all, of that senator of yours, said Cancun cruds, sensing any kind of shame or embarrassment? It wasn't that long ago that he had his dorky derriere handed to him by that stud Crudson guy. Now he's going on about something which is the most stupidest thing I've ever heard. I mean, everything that comes out of his mouth is just absolutely insane. Don't you Texans that voted for him, you also have no shame, no embarrassment? I mean, the guy is a disaster. He's an ugly-looking person. He's terrible. What is the matter with you people?
Yes, beauty standards. Definitely one of the main things I look at when voting for a candidate. Important to note, Cruz is not on the ballot this time around. It will be in a couple of years here. So that will it be back up 2024? Am I doing my math right? Anyway, none of the Texas senators on this time around here, unfortunately, but plenty of other things coming up on this ballot. And we'll kind of take that as the unofficial kickoff for our free-for-all because, of course, coming up tomorrow, that will be happening 4 to 6 p.m., taking the comments and calls throughout the hour. And as you heard during the break there, I hope you noted that the all-radio blood drive happening starting tomorrow. I will be out at Barnett Harley-Davidson from 11 to 1 tomorrow in support of that. So come on out, donate some blood if you can, or just help support the effort as we are seeing critical shortages nationwide. But we got at least one last call we'll get to here for the hour. We do have Joe on the west side here right now. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Regarding all this Supreme Court stuff, and it's your health and your doctor, the problem is, number one, the whole time information was being suppressed. And I listened on C-SPAN. I'm one of those nerds that watch C-SPAN while I'm drinking my morning coffee.
Okay.
And I heard the Senate committee back in 2020 under Senator Johnson from Wisconsin, when all those doctors, the frontline doctors, were touting ivermectin as a silver bullet. Yet Fauci and our government leaders, under both Trump and Biden, for all you Parsons out there, nobody ever talked about. Trump talked about the hydro thing and got abused by the mainstream media. But the point is nobody talked about losing weight, having vitamin D, C, and zinc in your system, and ivermectin. And the information has always been suppressed. And now, if all the listeners out there just Google Project Veritas, military documents, say ivermectin works in all phases. Now, there's an evil plot out against the media. Channel 7 still on their Facebook page is spreading all this fear about the virus and all these liberal sheeps here in El Paso. Oh, they need to close down the schools again. No, we don't. We don't. And another thing is Walgreens, Walmart, a lot of different stores refuse to fulfill doctors' prescriptions for ivermectin. I mean, there's just no excuse for that. And it's not a choice for you and your doctor whenever all the media, all the big pharmacies and the big companies are teaming up against a person's choice with their doctor and forcing these vaccines upon people. It's just against the Nuremberg Code. This is downright wrong. And that's where it gets out of hand, and I'll just hang up and listen.
No, I appreciate the points there. I mean, I do say that talk with your doctor is the most important part. If you got a doctor you can't trust, but I'm just going to put it this way. We do happen to live in such a community where there are alternatives, ways to source what you need. By which I mean, I've had it be in my family and other people I know, something that they couldn't get or was outrageously expensive on this side of the border, they've gotten in Juarez. Now, I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice. Your mileage may vary. Do what's right for you. Make your own choices on here on all of this. But I will say that there are studies going on with ivermectin, both the one locally that I still haven't seen any updates on. I'm really hoping that there's something there, but others happening across the country. I've said it before, and I'll say it again before the end of this and into the future, that the messaging that has happened during the course of this pandemic and throughout was just a total mess. And I really hope that there are going to be important lessons learned about public messaging and getting stories out there. I mean, I'm not surprised that there's stuff about how, well, things weren't talked about because it was seen as weird. I talked about it earlier in this show, even, about the whole mask advice and how the CDC was thinking about updating it, saying, yes, you should actually have a medically grade mask, but then keeping it where it is, saying not any mask is better than not. Like, the messaging has just been a cluster muffin this whole time, and it doesn't look like it's getting better anytime soon. I just hope there are some lessons learned. That's all I can really hope for at this point. But we're all going to have to leave it there for today because we're out of time for this program. I do thank everyone who did call in, comment, participate in the show. We are going to do it again tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m., free for all Friday, open lines throughout the show. So if you want to call in then, you're more than welcome to take on any subject. But for now, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when not on the road. Go to the blood drive, 11 to 1, Barnett Harley-Davidson. I'll talk with you all tomorrow. Have a great evening, y'all.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
You got mostly stop-and-go traffic, I-10 westbound between Wrestler and Thorne, a 5-minute delay on 375 Loop, northbound from North Loop Drive up to Bob Hope. I-10 westbound downtown, traffic's moving much better in that area. Gateway Boulevard at Hawkins, an accident reported there, and an injury accident, Copia at Pershing. You could take Montana as an alternate. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
If you're tired of big cable bills and want to cut the cord, you can still get Newsmax TV for free. Millions of Americans like you are watching Newsmax. It's available on all major cable systems, or get it free on major streaming platforms. Watch Newsmax on smart TVs like Samsung, LG, Vizio, and more. Find Newsmax on your Hub Guide or use the TV app. Newsmax also streams free on Roku, Xumo, Pluto, Amazon Fire, TiVo, Apple TV, Chromecast, and more. More than 7 million people have downloaded the free Newsmax app on their smartphones. There's no paywall or subscription, so watch Newsmax anytime, anywhere. Forbes calls Newsmax a news powerhouse. And watch great shows with Mike Huckabee, Greg Kelly, Rob Schmidt, Diamond and Silk, Stinchfield, and a lot more. Find out why America is tuning in to Newsmax TV, the fastest growing cable news channel. It's a source you can trust. Newsmax is real news for real people.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers